Welcome to Visual Basic, and this by the time you see this video, there's a very good chance you've gone through this. We are ultimately on this video, part of this video, we're going to have the 1.1 assignment that we do together, or I do it here, and you just pretty much copy verbatim the things that I've done to get a feel for what's going on, and then you'll try your own projects. But before we do that, since this is the first one, I'm going to go ahead and just go through kind of the basics of getting the program started. And right off the bat, we're going to get to this position a little differently than what you're seeing here, but we have to do that in the lab setting so I can monitor everybody on that. But the absolute biggest mistake people make early on is they rush to get into the program without setting the program correctly. Chances are, when you log into Visual Studio, it's going to come up and you're going to go File, New Project, perhaps, something like, and you'll do this in a different environment. It'll be a little different than this, but anyway, you're going to go New Project, not New File, and you're going to get a window very much like this, but likely yours is going to come up as Visual C#. And that is a mistake people do because the environments look very similar. People start trying to create a C# program, and then all of a sudden they realize the stuff they do doesn't work, and they're seeing things they haven't seen before. So we have to make sure we're into Visual Basic. And once we're into Visual Basic, we want to select Windows Forms app. That will probably be it all year. Some of you may play around with some of the others, but generally we're going to be in Windows Forms app. And now, so that takes care of one mistake. We have to get into Visual Basic. The good news about that mistake is you'll realize pretty quickly you're in the wrong environment after you start trying some things. But here's the really tough one for people. It's going to ask you to name your program, and I'm going to name mine 1.1 Hello World, because that's actually the program that we're going to be, this program right here. I'll give you some background probably during class about the whole Hello World program. But anyway, we're going to name it 1.1, and then this is the absolute #1 mistake people make. They'll just take the default location, and when you do that at school, it's going to put it on the computer's hard drive, and every night that computer's hard drive is going to get cleared. So you'll be moving along well, have a great 50 minutes, get a lot done, and the next day you come to class, or I know that we may be doing some remote learning stuff, but the next day you try to access this at school, it's going to be gone. You have to send that to your iDrive. And we're going to talk about your iDrive structure. We're going to talk about creating a folder structure. We're going to do that on probably day 1. And so if I did this, I'm just going to go browse, and let's see, I'm going to go ahead and just put this one for the sake of this. I'm not on the school computer right now. I'm doing this from home, so I'm just going to put it on my desktop, and I'm just going to choose. Take a look at some of the things I've been looking at here. You can take a look at, I'll select that folder, and then it says it's going to now to my desktop. Yours will be going to your iDrive into your Visual Basic folder. Create new solution, you're okay there. Solution name, I already named it 1.1, and then I'm going to go ahead and click OK. But here's the biggest mistake. You don't want to send it to the C drive. You want to send it to the iDrive into your Visual Basic folder. But we will have talked about that. But as sure as I'm talking to you right now, somebody will do that along the line. It might not happen for a few chapters. We want to create those good habits of let's take our time getting in there and getting this correct. So everything looks good, and I'm going to click OK. From this point on, when I go to save things, if I just go File, Save All, or you can see Control-Shift-F. Control-S is a little bit of an enemy for us here. You really don't want to Control-S. As you see, it only saves the form. It doesn't save code. That you'll learn more about this. But anyway, you want to do a Save All. You don't just want to hit Control-S. So that can be a little bit problematic for people at times as well. So here's the environment we'll end in, and when we'll end up in. And you may not see all of these things right now, but this is how I have mine on default on my home machine. You may be able to play around with that on your home machine, but that's not going to work on the school machine. So what you might have, that this toolbox might just be over here on the side. And you can live with it there, and some people just keep it there because they want to work on a great big form, so they just use some room. But I like toolbox to be pinned up all the time. And yours might be on all Windows forms, so these are like all the different things. These are all objects or controls that we can put on the form. Like, we won't use many of these at all for the purpose of this course, but we'll use a fair number. So I like that pinned, and some people just come to all, and they just search on the toolbar all the time. So I like having the common ones. I like all Windows forms. I like the common controls up at the top. We'll use these, but we'll venture outside of these, but we won't use all of these. So anyway, I like the toolbox open. Solution Explorer, you're going to see why that's kind of an important one for us to have open. And properties, this is a biggie for us. We want to have properties. If those things aren't in view, you ought to be able to go to view, and then we can look for some things like, here's Solution Explorer right here. We've got our properties window down there. We've got our toolbox right here. Those are the biggies for us. Those three, we want to have those three open. Okay, and good habits. So this first program we're going to create is, let's see if I can do this. Let's go ahead and shrink this a little bit so I can have that program shown at the same time. I got some things over here. So here's our first assignment, is this Hello World problem. I can't see all of my window right now. So you'll have a printout of these assignments, but for the 1.1 you don't, because we're going to do that one together. So you'll have a printout, so you won't have to have both things like this open at the same time. So we're to complete what's referred to as a Hello World project, which is part of the book's teaching. If you were learning from a book and not from a teacher, you would have gone through some of that, but we're going to put all that together for you here. So the first good habit we're going to get into after we get into our form is this form right here. When it's clicked on over in our properties window, it'll say Form 1, just for an idea of what's going on here. Notice now this checkbox, here's this checkbox as properties. I click on the form, here's the form's property. If I had a plain old button on there, there's button 1's properties. Notice when I click on checkbox 1, these will change a little bit in 1, 2, 3. We got a little bit of difference on there when I click on the form. 1, 2, 3. We get some different properties for different objects or controls. So I'll take those off. But the form, and for me, I like having things listed alphabetically. Some people like them listed in categories this way. I just like things listed alphabetically. The form has a name, this is confusing at times, that's called Form 1. We don't need to worry about changing its name. However, the name of the form and the text of the form say the same thing. This text of the form is referring to this right up here. And that is going to be the first thing we do when we start a new program, is I'm going to change that to something appropriate. I'm going to call it 1.1 space Hello World. And what you would be doing probably is watching this video and then just playing along with me right now. And now when I click off of there, we see that we have something appropriate up here. If you want to, you could go comma by Jane Wilson or something like that. Just limited to the space that's up here. Now, there's a lot of other properties on the form that we may play around with later, but right now, that's one we're going to use every single time we create a new program. We're going to get that done first. Okay, so let's take a look at our assignment over here. For your first Visual Basic experience, you must complete the Hello World project. Now, that, as I said, you'll typically have more direct directions on what to do, but this is something that they started with you as a first project, and I'm going to get you up to speed on that. Our Visual Basic program, our Hello World program, is going to include a button. So we just drag these. I think you can click and click as well. A lot of times I just drag and drop it. It's same difference. That really doesn't matter. Now, that is a control or an object. I typically refer to them as objects. They're things that everything over here we can put on the form. As soon as we put an object or a control on there, we're going to give that thing an appropriate name. And for right now, I'm just going to call it, let's see, well, what's it going to do? What this one's supposed to do is send a world hello, or send a message hello world. Let's read down through this. Then add buttons and event procedures to display hello world in 2 more languages. Oh, so I'm going to have some more buttons there. So I think I'm going to call this one, see, it's button 1, button 1. I'm going to call this guy's property BTN English. Now, take a look at that. Lowercase btn, capital E, English. You do not, I shouldn't even tell you this, but you're big kids. You do not really have to do that to make it work, but you have to do that for me to be satisfied with it. We'll talk about that in class. So how do we know what to name these things? Here is our website. See, I'm already open to the main page of it. I've got it minimized here. On that main page, so here's the website address that will be included in a packet for you. You'll have it, and you'll end up wanting to have that bookmarked and have easy access to that. So purpleshirtednerd.wixsite.com/visualbasic gets us to here. And this is the home page that'll open up, and I'm interested in what our control names are. Now, notice over here on the left, lots and lots and lots of controls. What I've done on this, let me get that back open. What I've done on this is I've just put the ones that we will be using for this course. There may be a few others, but these are the ones we're going to be using. And take a look. So if I have a button, now that's actually referred to as a command button right here. And let's say it was an exit button. The convention that we use, and again we'll talk about why we use specific conventions, is we use a prefix of lowercase btn. Notice this: the lowercases are the prefixes are 3 lowercase letters, and then we type in what the button's going to do, or give it an appropriate name. So this would be for like exiting the program. In this case, I might call mine BTN English, because it's going to be the one that says hello world in English. As an example, here's one, common dialogue, DLG for dialogue. And notice, I felt like using 2 words to properly describe this. I don't want something that's just called BTN button. I don't want DLG common dialogue. We want something, what's it doing? DLG file open. Or we have a label, LBL, oh, this is our help message, capital, capital. It's the world we live in, and that way we can kind of go, if we have a program out there and somebody else has a program out there, we're really just speaking the same language, and I'm going to be really, really particular about our naming conventions. So there they are for you. Later on, I think in Chapter 3, we'll talk about other conventions for variables in our code. But these ones right there are on the website, but they're also in the packet that you should receive on day 1. Okay, so I've got this button. I've renamed it. Now notice it didn't change. It still says button 1 here, but when I click on it up here, it's named BTN English. You'll see why that's valuable for us a little bit later. Okay, and now I want to change its text property you know, because when I run this program, not much of a program right now. When I run this program, we're compiling. The first time you run a program, it takes a little while. We get this thing. And I float over it. It looks like, oh yeah, click me. I click it, but what happens when I have 6 buttons on here? They're named button 1, button 2, button 3, button 4. Generally, we want to give the viewer some idea of what they're dealing with. So I'm going to click on my button, and I'm going to change its text property to be English, which the viewer is going to realize, hey, this Hello World program, if I click this, I'm going to get Hello World in English. So I'll hit enter or just click over here, and I've got that button. Now that's pretty small. You can play around with sizing things. You can make the button, of course, bigger if you like, but you can also change, and you should spend some time doing this. You should also go around, you could also come in and say, well, hey, how about the font? Maybe I want to change the font. Let's see what happens here. Oh, there's a dot, dot, dot. Maybe I want to change the font to be size 14. All sorts of other things you can do as well. Oh, okay, so I can do those kind of things. But it's called BTN English. When I click this button, I want something to say Hello World in English. So here we go. I'm going to do that. Then add buttons and event procedures to display the Hello World. I'm going to do that in a label. So I'm going to put a label over here. So there's my little label. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to change its font size just so it's easier for you to see. I'm going to change it to 14 as well. And that label is where my message is going to go. That's where Hello World, the message, is going to go. So can you take a guess at what our naming convention is for labels? It is, and again, it's back on that previous page that we took a look at, but our naming convention for that is lowercase LBL, label, and then what is it? I'm just going to say message. You could put LBL Hello World, because it's going to be Hello World in one language or the other, but I'm going to call it LBL message, as are you. I click off of there, and I didn't change the name. Oh, I click on the form. There we go. I changed the name, but I didn't change the text. Now the text property for right now, I'm just gonna replace it with dot, 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 dot. You'll see why I'm doing that in a little bit. So here's the deal. This is like the very first bit of code we're gonna deal with. Is when I click this button, I want this label's, watch this, text property. I don't want you to type this in on your program, to become Hello World. I want it to look like that. But I'm not going to type it in here for the user. I have to use code to do that for the user. So we're going to go into the background where we do some coding. I'm going to double click on English. And some of you may have already been there if you double clicked on the form, whatever. But I want the English button to trigger the text of LBL message. So I double click on this English button to assign some code to it. And it takes us into this little world. Okay, that's our code, and this is a good time to talk about good habits. When we get into our code, I'm going to come back into here, into this BTN English. When we click, it does this stuff, which, to be perfectly honest, you can be highly successful in this course without ever really knowing what this stuff's doing at this time. Some of you will get into some of that later, but right now, here's what I'm looking at. Private sub, BTN English. Okay. So I'm going to go up next to form 1 here. I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to hit apostrophe, enter, apostrophe, enter, apostrophe. And up to that first apostrophe, I'm going to put my name, Mr. Hearn. Notice it's in green. That means it is a remark or a comment. So Visual Basic will ignore it, but this is where I'm going to go, and I want to know who's written this program. I'm going to put the name of this program. Well, this is 1.1 Hello World. and I'm going to have the completion date on this, and I'm just going to say that is 9/3/20. Okay, so just putting that out there. I've done this before that date, so I don't know what date you're going to finish it. But anyway, when we're complete, we're going to update that. But you may do this in a day. Okay, now, review. Watch this. To get back to our form, a couple ways we can do it. The easiest way is right up here to click back and forth between form and code now. As an option on my Explorer, I could click form over here. But kind of nice to do it up here. So back to the form. When I click this English button, I want to affect LBL's text. Remember that? It's text property right down here. Here's how we do it. Pretty straightforward. I think it'll make some sense to you. So inside this subroutine, when I click English, I want LBL, and notice it will try to prompt you. If I had other LBLs on the page, it would ask for those, but it's trying to prompt me. At that point, you can just click this, or you can tab. And then, LBL what? There's so many things about LBL that I could change. I could change any of these things back here. But what do I want to change? I want to change its text property. So I'm going to jump back to here. LBL, watch this, dot, and look at all these options I have. Those are kind of the options that are back on the previous page, with some exceptions. So LBL, and as soon as I start typing text, if I get to that point, I can hit tab, or I can just finish typing it. LBL text equals, now, if I just put in, don't type this right now, hello world, they're trying to tell me, hey, something's wrong here. I float over this, it says hello is not declared. It's thinking hello is supposed to be some type of code right here. In order to make it be text, we're going to put quotations around it. And there we have it. So when I click BTN English, I want to affect the LBL message's text property. I want it to become hello world. Well, let's jump back to our form. Let's start this program. Let's click English. There, sure enough, we got it. Okay, so that is really what the book got us through in Hello World. Now, one more thing, pretty good habit to get into is, whoops, didn't mean to restart the program. I'm going to put another button on there. When I put a control on the page, I'm going to give it an appropriate name. Not appropriate text yet, appropriate name. So that name is going to start with BTN, then capital. I'm going to go exit. And then for that buttons, got to have the button click. For the buttons text property, I'm going to call it, or I'm going to change it from button 1 to exit. I hit enter, there it is. And for the sake for you guys, you don't have to do this. I'm going to change its font size just so it shows up. Now I ought to be telling you as I'm doing this that you would probably be done with this program if you did this program in a few days, you'd probably be done with it already. And chances are you've gone through some of these habits that I'm talking about, these things, these conventions. Chances are you've gone through there, but I do know we have a couple students who won't be with us week 1, so this is for the good, and it doesn't hurt to see these things again. So what do I want to do when I click exit button? When I click exit button, I want to exit the program, and that is just END. Notice how it recognized it, put it in blue. So now when I start, and you may say, well, why do we need to do that? Because we got an X here. Well, you can save these programs as executable standalone programs, and this bar won't be up there. Those options won't be there. So we're getting a good habit of putting an exit button. So I click. Nothing else happens when I click it again. Whoops. I didn't mean to do that. Okay. Nothing else happens when I click it again, but when I click exit, it's just like clicking this X button. Exit. Now, while I'm doing that, I'm going to show you something here that we might not have talked about at this stage right now. Perhaps we will. They're going to talk about keyboard access controls, and I want to show you how cool this thing is. If I go to English and I look down here, there is nothing, and these are alphabetical, there's nothing down here that says tooltip. And tooltips are really, really awesome. It's sort of like your Control C, Control V, Control S that you might know from working within Windows. I want to be able to just hit E and have the English version come up here. So what you do for that, this is really neat. On its text in front of the E, I'm going to go ampersand. That's Shift 7. Now when I do that, it puts a little underline underneath that E. Watch this. I'm going to go Start. And now you just have to trust me on this. Notice that ampersand is not there. I think it should be for the user, but it's not. You're going to have to trust me on this one. I'm about to hit the E button. Just the E. Don't even have to hit Control. I'm going to hit the E button in one. Oops, I'm not running yet. Am I not running? Where'd it go? There we go. I don't know what's going on with my computer. I'm going to hit the E button in 1, 2, 3. Trust me, I just hit E. So there's a keyboard access control. We use that with tooltip. Now the cool thing about, or excuse me, that's not tooltips. My fault. I'm going to talk about tooltips a little bit later. Scratch what I said on tooltips. I'm not going to start this over. Now, here's the problem. What if I want to exit and I want to hit E? Well, now there's going to be a conflict. It won't like that. But you can click between the E and the X in its text name, put an ampersand there, and when I click off there, notice it underlined the X. Now, I really don't like hitting the X button, exit the program, because what if the person didn't really want it? They maybe wanted to type in X, but here we go. I hit Start, I hit E, and now trust me, in 3 I'm going to hit X. 1, notice the mouse isn't moving. 1, 2, 3. Hit X. So there's a keyboard access control. They're done with ampersands as opposed to being tooltips. Okay, so now all that's left is to create 3 more buttons, or 2 more buttons, I think. Add buttons to your procedure Hello World message in 2 more languages. You may substitute other languages for those shown. So down here, I'm going to use French. So you can do this. I'm going to go Control C, Control V, and it gives us this. So now it's kind of the same size. You don't have to do that. You could put another button on. I'm going to change this one. Remember what the name of this one was, BTN English. So this one is going to be BTN French. And in fact, I think I'm going to put an well, not there. And then down on its name, I'm going to make its text be ampersand French. And you see it's got the underline there. Now, check this out. You're going to know the answer to this, I hope. Let's run this. I click English. Great. I hit French. Hey, nothing happened. Well, I didn't tell it to. Just making a button doesn't do it. I have to have code associated to it. And here I would like to think everyone's going to know. I don't know why my program is restarting, but that's all right. To get into the French code, if I just go into code now, I don't have a place for French. And you can type all of this and substitute French in there, but don't forget, if I just double click on the French button, it does that for me and puts me right in there. So what do I want to put in there? Pretty much that. I want my LBL message, but not to become Hello World. I want it to become Bonjour. Oh, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. Le Monde. Le Monde. Whew. All right. And I could probably go on to the next button, but I like testing things as soon as I make changes. Oh, how about that? Exit. I think my program is going to start again. I have no idea why. That shouldn't be happening. Strange, strange. So let's go back to the form. Let's put another button on. I'm going to Control C, Control V. Try to make it look pretty neat. We've got Italian here. So let's go good naming conventions. BTN Italian. And its name, ampersand Italian. Does the ampersand have to be there? Well, if you want to have I be a shortcut, it does. Click off there and double click this. Control C, Control V. And let's run it. So, Italian. Oh, well, what did I do? And we're going to double check and make sure I didn't put the Italian code in there, but I suspect and hope that most of you noted that. So I'm going to close out of here. Oh, you know what? I just floated over that. I didn't even click it. I'm going to close out of here. I'm going to come back in here in my BTN Italian, and I'm going to change this to Italian. Ciao. Mondo. And now run it. Pretty good. French, Italian, English, exit. You want one more challenge? Let's do this. One more thing. Let's add one more thing to it. Let's just add Control C, Control V. I'm going to call this one BTN Clear. I'm going to give it text property, ampersand clear. I'm going to take this dot dot dot, my LBL message, and I'm just going to get rid of the dots now. I'm just going to make it be clear to begin with. And there's lots of things in there you could play around with. And when I click clear, I'm going to go LBL message dot. I wonder if it has a clear. It doesn't have a clear. So I'm going to go dot text equals quotes quotes. Just throwing some different things at you right here. So English, notice we didn't have the dot 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 there. English, French, clear, Italian, clear, clear, exit. And for whatever reason, my exit button, my program still continues to try to run again. That makes no sense to me, but I'm certain that won't happen on our school, and if it does, we'll get to the bottom of it. So at this stage, it's worth knowing, every time you run the program, it saves the program completely, but I would still at this stage, once I'm certain I'm done, I've met all of these requirements, include remarks at the top of the code with your name, completion date, and 1.1. Use proper naming conventions, which I've done that, and I'm done. So then, again, you don't hit save form, you don't hit save form 1B as, you hit save all. And hopefully that's directed in the right place. This is a program, probably 1.2 and 1.3. You're going to be able to do those programs very, very quickly. If this one made some sense to you, this is a program that if you went back to this in a week from now, would probably take you maybe 6 or 7 minutes to create and have it working. But let's really try to fortify those good naming conventions. So I'm going to review those. As soon as we open up, the first thing we do is we change the text property on our form. Not the name of it. People get those confused. Not the name, but the text property is something appropriate. And when we put objects on, we immediately name those. Watch what happens here just as a reference. Let's say I would have put a button on here and I changed its text to, just for the heck of it, click me. And then I double click on that. Look what it does. Button 1. Well, oh shoot, I didn't rename it. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to rename this. Let's go BTN, capital click, capital ME. And now, watch this. You think when I double click this, it would change this, but it doesn't. It does say that, hey, this thing can go by the handle. Handle's another name for a nickname. Can go by the handle. But I don't want to have my eyes go all the way over here to know what which of these 4 buttons I'm dealing with. See how that's important when you get, let's say you had 30 buttons on there. I don't want to have to look over here. I want to be able to go right down this line and say, oh, that's my French one. That's my Italian. That's my clear. This is my, oh, I got to look over here now. Right? So we're going to put those things on. When we put an object on, we're going to name it immediately. I'm just going to take that one off. I'm going to go File, Save All, and let's make certain we're asking questions, getting off to good starts. Final reminder, when you go File, New Project, you're going to go to Visual Basic, you're going to go to Windows Forms, and you're going to send that to an appropriate place for you guys. That would be into your iDrive. It's going to be your iDrive, Visual Basic, and in that folder it's going to go into, you're going to have a folder structure put in there. But that is really, really critical for us. Otherwise you risk losing 15 minutes of work. Okay, it's on you. Ask some questions. This should be a pretty good guide for what you're going to be doing on 1.2 and 1.3. Thanks for watching. See you soon.